スランジ。
スランジ。
グレンモレンジ。いい味だ。ちょっと聞きますね。質問もいいですか？クエスチョン。年間の製造本数またはリットルで。
The annual production at the distillery is in the region of, at the moment, around about 8 million bottles of whiskey every year.
輸出のベスト5、できればジャパニーズが何位ぐらいに入るか。
Yeah, well, the five, or the top markets for Glenmorangie whiskey are, first of all, it's the UK. That's our top market. Second market is America, North America. And then we're looking at Europe, the Nordics, Europe, and then over to the Far East, Malaysia, Thailand, Taiwan, China's growing, and Japan, of course. Glenmorangie is very big in Japan.
アンディが、思うグレンモレンジ、これの性格、それから他の蒸留所と異なる点。
Yeah, well, Glenmorangie is obviously special and it's different from other distilleries in quite a few different respects. As we walked around the distillery, I explained about the process. The water, for example, is very special because it's a very hard water. So there's a lot of mineral salts, minerals in the water, which gives a flavour impact to the whiskey and also texture. So it's a very creamy, velvety texture when you drink the whiskey. So, you know, Glenmorangie whiskey, when I smell this, the aromas that I'm getting are very fruity, very citrus fruit, like oranges, peaches, bananas. You know, and these characteristics are coming from a few different places, from the fermentation, where we get this fruitiness in the washback during the fermentation. Also, in the distillation process, the big tall stills that I was explaining about. The tall stills make a very fresh, a very vibrant, a very fruity characteristic of Glenmorangie spirit. So this all goes through into the cask, and the cask produces different flavour characteristics depending on the type of wood that we're using. So, you know, the 10-year-old, for example, here is a very fresh, very vibrant, very fruity and floral whiskey. So there's a lot of different factors coming into play, you know, why Glenmorangie is different from other distilleries.
アンディがよく飲むウイスキー。
Well, the one that I drink most often, obviously it's the Glenmorangie. We have the whole range, you know, fantastic selection of Glenmorangies. So my favourite Glenmorangie here is the original. It's the original 10-year-old original because it is the original Glenmorangie. It's the base that we use to make all the other Glenmorangie whiskies that you see here. So this one is a perfect whiskey. This is the one I drink most of.
今までで最高のウイスキーですね、アンディの。
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. I've tasted a lot of very top quality whiskies in my career, working in different distilleries. But definitely the whiskey that I've tasted that's my favourite or my top quality whiskey is the 25-year-old Glenmorangie. And I've got a bottle over here. I'll take it. So this is a 25-year-old Glenmorangie that I'm speaking about. It's a fantastic quality whiskey. It's obviously 25 years old, so it's a very good age of whiskey. But what I like most about this whiskey is the balance between the distillery character and the cask, the influence of the cask has had, the wood has had on the whiskey, and it's such a fine balance. It's a fantastic balance. The 25-year-old, very smooth, very elegant, very complex, and it doesn't have too much of the cask effect. You know, the Glenmorangie, the character of Glenmorangie is still there. Very fruity, very sweet, very floral.
香りも味も良くて、でバランス本当にいいお酒でね。
It's a fantastic whiskey.
次はね、アンディのウイスキー業界の経歴。
Aye, well, I've been in the industry for 20 years now, because it's you know, time flies when you're having a good time, as I say. And I've been in the industry, the whiskey industry, for 20 years. Started working with a different distillers company from what I'm with now, and I've worked at 15. I was counting it the other night, 15 different distilleries, malt distilleries in Scotland, from different parts of Scotland, from the west over to the east Speyside. I was out at Talisker for a few years, in Skye, Glenord, which is the Highland distillery, up Speyside, various distilleries there. And now the pinnacle of my career is Glenmorangie. For me, this is the top distillery.
水源地、それからその水の特徴。
The water that we use at Glenmorangie Distillery for making the whisky is from a spring source, which is up in the hills, not far from the distillery, and it's called Tarlogie. This is the name of the area where we collect the water from. And the water is very rich in minerals. It's quite hard water, and it's quite unusual for a malt distillery in Scotland, because normally the water is very soft, but the Glenmorangie Tarlogie water is very mineral rich. So the minerals have an impact on the flavour of the whisky, and it also has an impact on the texture of the whisky. So when you drink the whisky, you get this very mouth-coating, velvety texture in the mouth, and this is coming from the water. So and the minerals, the flavour that it gives to the water, really comes about during the fermentation. So the fermentation, the yeast likes to use the minerals as a food source, and it creates a very fruity character, you know, like fresh apples and oranges. So the water is very important, and it's the Tarlogie water that we've always used at Glenmorangie.
重複するかな、樽の種類、それから何回くらい使うかということについて。
Yeah, the maturation is also, this is a very important part of the whisky making process, and we use primarily for our new make spirit, we use American barrels that have had bourbon in previously, and we only use the casks twice. For the reason for that is that we think that you use the cask the first time, it takes a lot of the goodness out of the wood. The second time, there's more goodness comes out. So every time you use the cask, there's less and less influence of the wood on the maturing whisky. So at Glenmorangie, we only use the cask twice for that reason, and then we sell the cask on.
シングルバッティング、そしてその効果。
Yeah, well, single vatting is I call it a single bottling. Different expressions of Glenmorangie. So we have here that this is the full expressions that we have, or some of them. We have the original, which is a 10-year-old. We then have La Santa, which is 10 years plus another 2 in a different type of cask, which is a sherry cask. And then the Quinto Ruban is 10 years in an American barrel, taken out and put into a port cask for a further 2 years, and it gives the Quinto Ruban, which is different flavours again. Nectar d'Or, which is 10 years in an American barrel, 2 years in the Sauterne white wine cask from France, and again it gives a different expression of Glenmorangie. And then we have the Finalta, which is a special edition release of Glenmorangie. We try and take different expressions out every year. So Finalta is one of these different expressions, and again it's a different recipe of Glenmorangie, different expression. So it's different casks, different ingredients go into the malt whisky, like slightly peated. This one is slightly peated, whereas the others are non-peated malt that we use. So the Finalta is something different again from the normal Glenmorangie. It's got this very smoky, well not very smoky, but it has a smoky flavour about it, because we've malted the barley using some peat smoke.
何 ppm ぐらい
Yeah, the ppm, the ppm of this, the parts per million of phenol, which is a measure of the amount of peat that's in the whiskey. The phenolta would be in the region of, it's fairly low, about 4 or 5 parts per million phenol. So it gives a slight hint of smokiness. Whereas the other Glenmorangies, the other expressions, are very low, if any at all. So
そこも美味しいんだけどね。
yeah.
あ、一番好きなどれ？ちなみに、like この中で。
Which one do I like? Which one do I like the most? My favourite is actually the Quinto Ruben, which is this one here, the Quinto Ruben. I mean, you see the colour. The colour is absolutely fantastic. It's got this ruby red colour, which is coming from the port cask, and the flavours are absolutely fantastic. You know, it's a real full-bodied whiskey. It's got the dark chocolate. It's got a bit of mintiness. It's got it's got fantastic rounded flavours. The orangey of Glenmorangie. It's in there too, and it's just a fantastic, well-balanced whiskey.
フィニッシュシリーズの一番最初気づいたのもこういうのファーストボトルだよね。もういいだね。わかるような気がする。ありがとうございました。
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
cheers. 忘れてきちゃった。
Cheers, whiskey glass. It's over there.
Thank you.
Cheers.